What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our Kings related podcast, wherever you may be. As always, thank you for joining me for another edition of the show. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your audio podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe over on the YouTube. Hit that thumbs up, notify bell, and leave a comment down below. The Toronto Raptors tonight showed why they are one of the most surprising NBA teams this season in the league, as they outscored the Kings 70-48 in the second half, en route to a 122-109 victory over the Kings as Sacramento concluded their season-long 7-game homestand tonight. And after winning 4 straight games to begin this homestand, the Kings dropped their final 3 games on this homestand, 2 losses coming by double digits on this homestand. And with this loss tonight against the Toronto Raptors, the Kings maintain their 2.5 game lead between themselves and the New Orleans Pelicans for the worst record in the association. And we're talking the NBA draft for this upcoming summer. And the Kings are coming off a ugly showing last night against another good team in the Eastern Conference in the Miami Heat. And Sacramento tonight, they were sluggish to come out to start this game as the Toronto Raptors took an early 9-point lead. But give credit where credit's due. Sacramento, they bounced back thanks to a 10-point opening period from Zach LaVine and 8 early points off the bench for that Energizer Bunny in Malik Monk. And Malik, who's been getting more playing time since all of a sudden he's not getting those DMPs, who has been a microwave scorer for the Kings during this first half of this basketball game. Shooting, he was a perfect 5 of 5 from the field. He was 3 of 3 from the three-point range. As the Kings, they turned the tables and they took a 9-point lead into the halftime break. But that halftime lead would not be along for very much longer, because the Toronto Raptors, they turned the Kings' 9-point lead into a 13-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. And the Kings, they hold a record this season of 2-26 when they are trailing after 3 quarters this season. And this is the 3rd straight loss, which really felt inevitable going in tonight, because this is a Raptors team that outscored the Kings 43-21 in that 3rd quarter. They shot 14 of 19 from the field. That is 73% shooting. They were 4 from downtown, 66%, while also holding the Sacramento Kings to just 38% shooting on their side of the floor. Outside of that, outside of Dylan Caldwell, who played really well again tonight, and I will guarantee you this, that Dylan will get an NBA standard contract come after the deadline because he's earned it. Outside of Dylan in that third quarter, who had 2 blocks and a steal in that quarter, the Sacramento Kings couldn't stop a nosebleed. They couldn't create stops, especially against Scottie Barnes, who had 14 points in that third quarter. And this is a Toronto team that had the 6th best defensive rating in the league. But Sacramento, they played in and around that paint tonight. And the ability to limit the damage from the Toronto Raptors offense, 36% field goal percentage during that first half. And they put the Beam team, or the Beam Boys, in a strong spot after the first 24 minutes of action. But let's talk about some individual players from tonight's game. Russell Westbrook tonight. This was Russell Westbrook day, as rarely do you see any player that's been with a team for only 4 months, I believe it is, celebrated like the Sacramento Kings celebrated Russell tonight, and they handed out posters of him, and he responded with 23 points, setting an NBA record. Has all of its benefits for the future NBA Hall of Famer Malik Monk. I don't know whatever happened between him and Doug Christie behind the scenes, but Malik Monk is not only out of the quote-unquote doghouse, but he is back to his highlight reel ways for the Kings. Off the bench, he torched Toronto for 13 points, 5 of 5 shooting in the first half, and he continued it after halftime to finish with 17 points and 3 assists on tonight. And Nick Clifford, who had his best game last night against the Miami Heat, he looks like he's getting comfortable finally. It's a slow process for some rookies as they make that transition from college to the NBA. But for Clifford, it looks like he's finally settling in and finding his game. 4 points, 7 rebounds. He also dished out 3 assists tonight. He also gave Sacramento a defensive presence on the court when he was on the floor tonight. So anybody who wants to crap on Clifford, you got to be patient with rookies. So, and once the deadline comes and goes, Nick Clifford will get much more extended playing time. And just watch this kid rise here in the quote-unquote post-deadline of the season. Zach LaVine, he found some room to operate. He continued his mini surge tonight against Toronto, and over the last week or so that he's been playing. Tonight he shot 7 for 17 from the field, including some pretty decent finishes around the rim, on his way to a 19-point, 5 assist game for the veteran. And the other rookie, Maxime Reynaud, who continues to creating his own little checklist, and he has been a revelation for the Sacramento Kings in a dismal season. One of the only players worth tuning into these games for. But Max still has a long way to go in his development. There's been some highs and some lows this season, but the one thing about Max is he's got to get stronger, and he will get stronger once he fills into his body, especially on the defensive end of the floor. But that will have to wait until after this season and when we get to the off season. And tonight, 8 points and 7 rebounds for Max in this loss for the Sacramento Kings as they drop their third straight game. They are now 12 and 33 on the season, and after going 4 and 3 on this 7-game homestand, not bad for a bad team. At times, some unwatchable basketball, but hey, not bad to go 4 and 3 on this homestand, and you beat some really good teams. So up next for the Sacramento Kings is they head out on the road starting Friday for a 6-game road trip, which will take them to Cleveland, Detroit, the New York Knicks, Philadelphia, and wrapping it up in Boston against the Celtics. Not going to be easy, so let's see how they play on this road trip. You got some tough teams on that road trip, but the Kings still have a 2.5 game gap between them and New Orleans for that worst record in the NBA for a good lottery position. So that will do it for this post-game recap of the Kings' loss to the Toronto Raptors. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your audio podcasts. We are a video podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. So by all means, please go catch the video feed. But until next time, thank you as always for joining me on this Kings related podcast and post game recap. We'll see you Friday night following the Kings and the Cavs for another post game show. And as always, go Kings.